Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I got a couple of them. This guy looks like a baby shark because it's so small. This is a 1 to 2 year infant shark. So I have a model foot that goes in that. This is actually bigger than the model. My model foot's only 4.5 inches, so it's meant for a 6-month-old, but that's why it doesn't quite look right. But I wanted to kind of show you that I even put a tie on this one, you know, because it's for an infant. So to save it from falling off, I did a little tie for this one. I'm not making this one in the video though. I'm going to make this guy here, which is this is a toddler, 2 to 3 year old toddler. So I didn't put a tie on it, but you can if you want, because toddlers, you know, walking around and stuff. I wanted to show you this because this is also going to be part of the video. I'm just not making it in the video. So just like my other 7 to 9 year old and 5 to 6 year old slippers, shark slippers, this video is going to be 2 sizes for you to choose from, whatever size you need. This one here is they're both the same pattern. This one here is made with a 4mm, and this one's made with a 4.5mm. And then the fins, because they needed to be so small, are made with a 3.5, which is an E-hook. And then I did the eyes a little bit differently. Let me put this guy down. I did these eyes with buttons instead of how I had been doing it, because I didn't want baby to feel anything on the back with safety eyes, so I did him a little bit differently. But I know I don't have a model foot to put in this, but that's, well, I'm not even holding it right, but you know, you get the idea. So according to my chart, and I'm going to put my chart in the video like I always do, and according to my chart, this was made to size. I don't make these slippers because I have a foot to put in them and I can make them. I have to go by chart. So I'll put the chart that I used. And then as far as length, just like all my other shark slippers, you can choose your own length. And I'll get to that when we get into the length of it that are made with half double crochets. So enough blabbering. Let's get into this. So, like I said, I'm doing this video with my 4.5. I'm using just 4-weight. There's my 4-weight white and my 4-weight blue. So I'm not using anything that's worsted. I'm not using baby fine, although this white is thinner than my blue. It's hard to tell on the camera, but the white is thinner than the blue, but I'm not using any baby yarn. If you need it to be smaller, maybe in diameter or that, just use a baby yarn. I'm sure that'll do the trick. And you're gonna need some buttons. So that's what I used for the eyes. Is I crocheted this obviously, and then I glued and sewed just a little button in there. And then probably a gauge thing. My last video I said I couldn't find my gauge thing, and this is my gauge thing. So we're going to be measuring our gauges. I'm not a fan of these because they're so bendy. They can just get out of shape way too easily, and then you don't get a proper gauge. So I'm just going to use my measuring tape, and we're just going to measure. Well, I've already measured my gauge. I'll show you how to measure your gauge so you know whether it's going to be the same size as mine or whether you're a tight crocheter or a loose crocheter. Again, enough blabbering. You're going to start with your white. And you don't need to make yours blue. I'm just making mine blue because I don't know. It was a baby shark thing. But you don't have to. And I was running out of gray. So you're going to start with a slip knot. And if you're doing the 1 to 2 year old infant, you're going to use a 4mm G hook. You're going to chain 5. And you're going to do 4 single crochets back up. Your next round is just going to be 4 single crochets. I'm not going to say chain 1, turn your work through the whole entire thing. You're just going to have to know that you chain 1 and turn your work. Your next round is going to be an increase round, so we're going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch, 2 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. This gives you 6 stitches. So I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. Then I want you to put 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 4 single crochets across, and then 2 in the last stitch. For the next 2 rows, I want you to do 8 single crochets. So 1 in each stitch for 2 rows. Your next round is going to be an increase row, so 2 single crochets in your first stitch, 2 single crochets in your last stitch, and then 6 single crochets across. This gives you 10 stitches. So for the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 10 stitches. Increase row, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, you're going to do 8 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in your last stitch. You have 12 single crochets, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of those 12 stitches. So increase row again, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, you're going to do 10 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. This is what you should have at this point. Hopefully I've been staying on camera. I just happened to look up and I wasn't quite there. You should have 14 stitches. So I want you to do 2 rows of 14 stitches, and on the second row we need to put our markers in. So, we need to get some green markers. Actually, let's get all of our markers out. So I used green, blue, and pink for all of them. For every single one I've done, I used green, blue, and pink. Makes it easy on me. So this is where our green markers go. So right at the end of each of that last row that you just did, put a green. Sorry, I just had a sneezing fit. Put a green marker on each end, and then we're going to do 2 more rows of 14 single crochets. So this is what you should have at this point. We're going to start decreasing, and we're going to marker this next row. So your next row is going to be a decrease. So you'll see it written as SC2 tog, and that means to single crochet 2 together, and you're just doing a regular decrease. Then you're going to do 10 single crochets across and do another decrease in the last 2. And then your last 2 stitches, this is where our pink markers go. So mark that row, mark that row, chain 1, turn your work. You should have 12 stitches. I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. So we're going to continue to decrease. So decrease the first 2 stitches. You're going to do 8 single crochets across. And then you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. For 2 rows, do 10 single crochets. So this is what you should have at this point, and after your second row of 10 single crochets, I want you to put a blue marker. So that's all the markering we're doing. So the blue marker is going to come in handy for knowing how to do our measurements, and also the pink and the blue marker are going to tell me where I need to fold my thing over. So they'll come in handy for the sewing process and the measuring process. Right now they're just going to be in the way. We're going to start increasing, so I want you to put 2 single crochets in the first stitch. I want you to do 8 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. You should have 12 stitches. I want you to do 1 single crochet in each of those 12 stitches. This is where we're going to start building our sole of our shoe using half double crochets. So you should have 12 stitches across. We're going to use that to measure our gauge. So for 12 stitches, my gauge is 3 inches across, but I am a loose crocheter. That's why I make my slippers so big for people that either crochet normally or crochet tight. And the majority of people that I know crochet tight. So I always make my stuff extra big. Well, not extra big, but you know, I'm a loose crocheter, so I design that way. So for rows, it's 4 rows per 1 inch. So that's 4 rows, 2, 2 for 1 inch. That's what my gauge is, if that helps. So and I think this was 14 rows. So if you wanted to measure 14 rows, or 14 stitches, not 14 rows, you can do that. So we're going to start half double crochets now. So 10 rows puts me at 5.5 inches. So according to the chart, which I'm going to put up now, so according to that chart, 5.5 inches puts me at about a 1.5 year infant. I add another inch to that for the build. So this the measurement of the entire sole that the foot's going to go into is going to be 6.5 inches. So I'm building, in this particular episode, I'm building the 2 to 3 year old toddler size. So according to the chart, that puts me around the 3 mark. I'm going to put the chart up again. So as you can see, that puts me around the 3 mark. I figure it's an easy peasy way to do a video that has multiple sizes. And again, I'm a loose crocheter. But when you measure this, you're going to measure from the blue markers down for your measurements. So I'm going to do 10 rows because that will put me at 5.5. So you need to measure and do an inch shorter than what you need according to the chart, depending on the age that you're doing. So if you're loose like me and you need 5.5 inches, if you need a 6.5 inch slipper, then from here we're going to do 10 rows of half double crochets, 12 half doubles. So we're doing 12 across. We're not increasing or decreasing at all. We're just doing half doubles for the next 10 rows in each of these 12 stitches. So I will see you on the other side and we can remeasure and see where we're at. I'm chaining 1 at the end of every row, not 2. So that's my 10 rows. I'm a little bit tight today, I would think, because I'm not quite at 5.5, measuring from the 0 being at the blue marker line. So I'm probably just a little tight today, but anyway, this should read, if you're building for the 2 and 3 year old, this should read 5.5 because we need 6.5 to complete the entire slipper. If you're building for the 1 to 2 year old infant, this should stop at 4.5 because we need it to be 5.5 completed slipper. And I'll put the chart up again. So as you can see by the chart, 5.51 puts you right at 1.5 years old for infant. So 528 and 583 for 1 and 2 is not going to make a big deal, especially for diameter. So that's where we need to be. Now this thing here gives me a completely different reading because it's all bent out of shape. This actually puts me at 5.5 inches from the blue line, from the blue marker line. So I don't know if you can see that, but I mean that's about all the inches that you get. Well, you get 6 in this, and I'm right there at 5.5. And is that because it's bent, or like I get different readings off of both, but I mean they're like this much different, so I'm not going to make a huge deal over it. But this is what you should have. This is what it should look like at this point. And again, I'm building for the 2 and 3-year-old, so I'm stopping at 5.5. Hopefully yours measurements are good. This is where I change colors, so I'm going to kind of back out of this, if I can, back out of this. I'm going to change to blue. I get my blue ready. So when I go into my last stitch, I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm stuck on something. Pull up a loop, and I'm going to finish that stitch with my blue. So the white and the blue, I'm not really tying a knot, I'm just tying once. I'm going to weave that in, but I don't really want anything to happen to it. So chain 1. I'm going to turn with my 2 colors to weave in at the back. So we're going to start this row with a decrease. So just make sure you're weaving in both those colors at the back, or however you do a color change is, I'm sure, fine. It'll be fine. So we do a decrease. We're going to do 8 single crochets across, and then we're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. You don't need to take your white anymore. I think weaving it in for 1 row is perfectly fine. So your next row is just going to be 10 single crochet. We're back to single crochets, by the way, in case you didn't notice. So you're just going to do 10 single crochets, 1 in each stitch. So we're going to do another decrease. This is the toe area. And you're going to do 6 single crochets across and then decrease the last 2. You should have 8 single crochets, so we're going to do it we're start increasing now. So put 2 single crochets in this first stitch. You're going to do 6 single crochets across. And in the last stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. You should have 10 single crochets. You're going to put 1 in each stitch. We're going to keep increasing. So I want you to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 8 single crochets across, and 2 single crochets in the last stitch. In the full stitch. This turning over stitch can give me problems sometimes. Chain 1, turn your work. You should have 12 single crochets, so I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 12 stitches. So what we did here for half double crochets, we're going back to half double crochets. So when we fold this over to match up and make it even here, you're going to notice that about 1 inch of it is left on the other side, and that's why I wanted you to stop 1 inch short. So what you're going to do with half double crochets, whatever you did in here, I did 10 rows, so I'm going to do 5 rows of half double crochets. For the blue, if you did 6 rows, then you only do 3 rows. It all depends on what size you're making. Now if you are making a size that's really that short, your circumference, it's going to be really baggy but anyway, I digress. Whatever you did here, do half of it for here. So I did 10 rows. I'm going to do 5 rows in the blue of half double crochets. So that's my 5 rows done. So when I fold mine over, and there should be a natural fold there because these two ends meet, you should be about halfway. So your blue markers are up here, so you should be about halfway. So we're going to increase. We're going to do 2 single crochets, back to singles, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do 10 single crochets across. And then in the last stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. For the next 3 rows, I want you to do 14 single crochets. So this is what you should have. This should kind of look funny right there. But now we're going to decrease. There's a method to my madness. So decrease the first 2. You're going to do 10 single crochets and then decrease the last 2. You have 12 single crochets. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. I ended up getting a knot from the manufacturer right there. I really hate that. I really hate that. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to decrease the first 2. You're going to do 8 single crochets across and decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. So here you're going to do 10 single crochets, and then we're going to measure to see if we're at the right spot. All right. So, fold it over, making sure the sides are even so it's the natural fold. And you should be right up to where the row is. Oh, sorry, get on camera. It should be up where the row is, where your blue, not maybe at your blue markers, because it all depends on where you put your blue markers, but there's that row right there. That's where you should be, is right at that row. And there's a reason for that. So moving on, we're going to keep decreasing. I want you to decrease the first two. Sorry, I'm leaning again. I want you to do 6 single crochets across and decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. For the next 2 rows, I want you to do 8 single crochets. The reason I wanted you to measure that to make sure it was at the blue line is because this is where we're starting the head of the shark. So I needed it to be in that area to know where to start. So the markers come in handy for a number of different reasons. Just finishing my second row of 8 single crochets. We're going to keep decreasing. So decrease the first 2. You're going to do 4 single crochets. And you're going to decrease the last 2. So I didn't make this very tall because it's a kid's little slipper. And I didn't know how much it would bother going like really too far up on the leg, so I kind of kept it around the ankle-ish part. So you got 6 stitches. The next 2 rounds, you're just going to do 6 single crochets. So we're going to decrease again. And now you're going to do 2 single crochets and then decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. For the next 3 rows, you're going to do 4 single crochets. And now we're going to increase. So do 2 single crochets in your first stitch. You're going to do 2 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in your last stitch. Oops. Chain 1, turn your work. And now you're just going to do 6 single crochets to finish the project. Well, not quite. So you can fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail, a little one, to sew just the nose part. So, not much of a sewing tail. You don't need one certainly to sew the whole project, but this is what you should have. Sorry, I'm trying to lay that flat. So it's pretty funny looking. Kind of looks like a fish on both ends, sort of, kind of. So, we're going to start sewing. So I'm going to get some of my white. You're going to make a slip knot on one end. And I'm going to thread the other end. So, what I need you to do is to fold. Let me come in again. You're going to fold this white over till your pink meets your blue. So if I'm folding it, if you turn it over, you can see that this part sticks out and this part sticks out from the bottom piece. It's not even, and I want you to sew like that. It just gives you more space in the ankle. So I'm going to start at the green marker. I'm going to attach using my slip knot. Go through the loopy. We're turning this right side in after we sew it, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like on this end. You can take your markers out. I only needed the markers in there. Well, I needed the blue in there for measuring and stuff like that, but I only needed the markers in there to know where to stop the fold. You are going to sew from green to green. So you don't really need to sew across here, but if you wanted a rounded off heel, so it's not a square heel, I would sew up here and across diagonally. That gives you more of a rounded heel, which is why I put the extensions on the side. I made it a little bit bigger. Just seemed like the heel was really tight on my other models. Trust me, I've made prototypes and I've ripped them out. I've thrown them out. It's taken a while. This is not an easy thing to design, that's for sure. And if you are looking for other sizes, check my channels because I have adult sizes. I have an adult size. And I have a child adult size. So it's just a smaller adult size, but it also fits a child. So, according to my chart. So I'm just doing a regular whip stitch. Now, right now I'm staying kind of near the top because I did put that extra wide piece in there just for some room. So I'm just staying near the top because I wanted this to be concaved a little bit. So if you stay to the top of this one to the top of that one, it should take on that concaved look. So when you get up here though, if you wanted a rounded off heel, go down deep like into it and make a couple of stitches. That'll give you a rounded off heel so it's not so ugly and square. I'm just going to cut this off. So a couple of stitches there, I'm sure that'll be perfectly fine. So I'm just going to scooch across the top. I don't really need to make stitches. You can if you want to stitch along the whole entire heel, but I'm just going to scooch. So I'm going to scooch up to about where I would be putting in my corners. So again, I'm just going deep with my corner. Put in a couple of stitches. And then I'm just going to start whip stitching edge to edge to get me that concaved heel. Now just keep in mind when you're sewing, this is going to get washed. These are slippers, so people are going to be washing them quite often. So anyway, green to green, and then you can stop, make a knot. Wiggle that back and forth. It tightens that knot right down. And then you can just weave wherever. This is all getting turned inside out, or right side in, so it doesn't really matter where you weave. Just going to weave up here for a bit. Pretty tight up in there. So what you're going to do next, I gotta put my stuff away so it doesn't irritate me. Thing was in my way. So flip back over so that this is here. You're gonna flip this backwards. Keep your green markers in there. So hopefully you've sewed this evenly. I tend to not sew this evenly because I don't sew very well. So you're going to take your blue piece and you're going to fold it over where you're supposed to be folding it. So that leaves about 1 inch on the toe part underneath there. The side should be even so you know where to flip it over and fold it. What I want you to do on each side is to sew all along here and then literally a 1/2 inch past that green marker. If that's even a 1/2 inch. Like, you're only doing a couple of stitches past the green marker. And that is for this part right here. So this is your heel. And then this part right here is just, so you just need a couple stitches. And you're going to do that on both sides. So this gets whip stitched up to where you sewed here, and then a couple of stitches past that green marker. You can take that right back out and then do the exact same thing on the other side. So that's why we got to flip this back, because you're going to be sewing into it. So you can use any color you want. I actually do both sides. I don't try to scooch across, but if you want to. I mean, I have, because I've had extra yarn, but I find that it gets out of shape. So I'm going to start at my 1/2 inch spot. Go through my loop. So when I attach, I do an extra knot just for safety reasons. I'm going to take my marker out, even because I already know where I am. I'm in 1/2 inch past it. So again, it's literally just a couple of stitches. That's 2 stitches. And then I go into this spot, so I kind of connecting the 2 ends. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain, I suppose. That these two, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I mean, you probably know how to sew way better than I know how to sew. So I'm just going to continue along. So again, if you want to round it off toe, you're going to have to go deep with your stitches. So you see how my blue sticks out here? That's the concave I was talking about. You need to go edge to edge, but if you feel that this is going to be too wide for your child's foot, then just don't go edge for edge. Me, I'm just going to go edge for edge. My little gaffers, they got some wide, fat little wide feet. So I'm going to weave, but I'm going to try to stay to the surface because I'm going to be flipping this around. Okie dokie. Once we're done that, we can turn this right side in. So there's your heel. It's all nicely rounded if you did it the same way I did it. And pop my toes out here. My toes, nicely rounded toe. God, this thing is small. There we go. Oh, fabulous. My manufacturer's knot's on the outside, so hopefully I can put an eyeball on that or something. So this is what your slipper should look like. So, this nose, this gets folded down, so of course they meet. And you're going to sew up the side and down the side. That's what this is for. So one more stitch. I'm going to do my knot. So this should be nice and tight. I'm just going to weave into, so you can actually go down and up, because nobody's going to see. Oh, I might have pulled way too tight there. Nobody's going to see that. So we don't sew this because this is where we're going to be putting teeth and stuff like that. So your heel should be nice and round. Everything should be nice and round so it doesn't look too horrible. So let's get some red. We're going to reattach to do the mouth part. So I've got my red. I'm just going to make a slip knot and I'm going to reattach right down here on this corner. So attach just using a single crochet. Put another single crochet in that same space, and then this is a raw edge all the way up here, all the way down here, 4 stitches at the top. You're just gonna stick your hook wherever you can stick it. Generally each row will have a couple places. So I got no numbers for you, just stick it wherever you stick it. And stop at the nose area so I can show you what to do up there. So raw edge all the way up here, but you're only going to go to where this fold is. You're going to stop right here, and then I'll show you what to do here. So for these stitches, I'm going to put the red in the front loops, these guys, because I'm going to do the teeth in the back loops, those guys. So in the front loops, that's where you're going to put your single crochets. And then make sure you get right into this corner, and then back down with your raw edge. One more stitch, and I'm going to fasten off to the first stitch that I made, not where I reattached, but the actual stitch that I made. So just need enough to weave with. Okay, so I like to, and I'm not telling you to do this, I like to tie this in a double knot before I weave it. Because, again, this is probably going to be washed many, many times. So we're going to reattach with white now, make the teeth. I'm going to make the teeth with a 3.5 just because it's such a small slipper. I don't want big gagglies in there. So I'm just going to reattach with a single crochet. So because this is a smaller slipper, and I don't know if you followed all my other ones, but the teeth I'm doing differently for this one because it is smaller. So I've reattached with a single crochet, and I'm going to put another single crochet in there. That will be 2 single crochets. I'm going to use that as a stitch because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to slip stitch into that one anyway. So I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to picot. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to grab those 2 bars. And I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to put 2 more single crochets in there. So I can get in there. That's 1, 2. So I'm going to skip 3. I'm going to go into the 4th stitch. I'm going to make a single crochet. I'm going to put another single crochet in there. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go down these 2 bars for my picot. I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to put 2 more single crochets. And that's tooth number 2. Tooth number 2. Skip 3, 2 single crochets, chain 2, picot, 2 single crochets. So that's your repeat all the way around. When you get to the nose area, you're going to fold this back, and you're going to find your back loops. So remember, we used just the front loops up here, so you got all these back loops right there. That's where your teeth are going to go. And obviously you're not going to use every single one because we're skipping 3 or skipping 2, whatever you want to do. You can skip 2 or 3. I'm going to skip 3. So I'll put your repeat up on the pause screen, and I'll see you up at the nose area. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I am at the nose area, so I've pulled my red back and I've exposed my back loops, which is hard to see because I got this fold right here, but these are my back loops. So there's really 4 of them. There's more than that, but I'm not going to dig, and I don't need to because I'm skipping stitches anyway for my teeth, but that's where my teeth are going to go. So don't really worry about whether it stretches out or not, because it'll all look fine once you make the next stitch. So I'm just going to skip 2 because I think if I skip 3 it'll look really stupid. He'll look like he's missing a tooth. Just trying to be conformity. I like to just make up words as I go along. Just saying. So here again, I'm just going to skip a couple and go into the 3rd one. So the reason I chose to do that is because when a shark, have you ever seen a shark, like it almost snarls, rolls its top lip back? Yeah, that's why I chose to do that. I think it's pretty super cool. But I'm a geek when it comes to making things for crochet. I try to make it as realistic as possible. You know, my dolls or my fairies or my unicorns, because, you know, those are real things. I joke. I'm just joking. I'm sure the unicorn was something real at one point in existence. I'm just going to skip 2 here, just to make it look uniform, which is the word I was trying to find the last time I tried to say that sentence. So I'm back around. I'm just going to that first stitch that I made. It's kind of tight, but stick it into there, do your slip stitch, fasten off. Oh my god, my cat. I don't know if you can hear that. That's my cat running around upstairs. So again, I'm going to tie these two pieces in a double knot. A super duper tight double knot because it's going to be so small you're not even going to see it. I opened up the basement window for my cat, and it is like March outside. It is currently December 16th at 5 o'clock in the morning, but here in Canada and, well, across the world, you know, all the tornadoes are going on and stuff. It's pretty high winds out there, but I just came back from a walk and it's 12 degrees. Like, it's pretty warm. I just had my poncho on. So my cat probably thinks it's spring and he's freaking out, running around the house like a mad cat. But super nice out. We've been having all sorts of weird weather all across the world, I'm sure you all know. And this time in Canada, we generally have a crap ton of snow, but there's no snow. I think it's going to be a green Christmas. Which sucks, because it's always nice to have snow for Christmas. Okie dokie, Smokey. So I gotta put my slipper back into shape. So that is your mouth. Looks better when it's on an ankle, but with skipping the stitches, that's what makes it curl like that. Skipping the 2 or 3 stitches makes it curl. And then this looks like he's snarling with his mouth back, which then puts the nose back, but I'm kind of out of shape right now, so it looks funny. And I don't have a foot to put into it to show you, but I'm sure you get the gist of it. So, let's do the fins first, and then we'll put the eyes on, because then it might be easier. It's such a small space, might be easier to figure out where to put the eyes once the fins are attached. So, I'm going to use my 3.5 millimeter E hook for my fins. I am pretty sure that's what I did for these fins, just to keep them small enough that it didn't really crowd the tiny little, I mean, it's such a small space, right? Oh my god, I don't know if you can hear my cat. He is so heavy-footed. Oh, here he comes down the stairs. Alright, so we'll do the side fins first. So make a magic ring. You're going to put 6 single crochets in here. We're not slip stitching or chaining, we're doing this amigurumi style. You're going to go in to your next stitch. You're going to do a single crochet. Put your marker in. You're going to do 1 single crochet increase on this round. So that's number 1 where your marker is. So your next stitch is going to get the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So any brackets you see on my channel mean the same space, generally. I'll tell you if it means anything different, but it's either a special sequence or it's the same space when you see it on my pause screens. So I'm just going to flip this over a little bit. Make sure my center's pulled nice and tight. We are going to, I'm going to move my slipper. We need to kind of angle this fin, that's what fins do. So this next round is going to consist of 5 single crochets and 4 half doubles. That's how we're going to make the turn. It's not really a turn, it's kind of just a soft bend, but that's number 1. Oops. Let's do that again. What am I at? 1, 2, 3. Probably finish the stitch before I move on. So that's my 5 single crochets. So now I'm going to do 4 half doubles. Your next round is just going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 12 stitches. That's number 1. That's 2 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So we're going to do funky stuff for the next round. Funky, funky. You're going to do 6 singles and 6 half doubles. That's number 1. That's my 6 single crochets. And I'm going to do 6 half doubles. Okie dokie, Smokey. Your next 2 rounds, I'm going to put on my pause screen. I'm just trying to speed the video up a little, make it a little faster. The first one's going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, bringing you up to 15 stitches. And then your next row will be 4 single crochet increase, bringing you up to 18 stitches. And then I'll meet you right back here. So I'm back. So you should have 18 stitches. So this next round is going to be 9 single crochets and 9 half doubles. And your very last row is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So you see how it's uneven because we're trying to make it have this soft bend in it. I want you to do extended stitches, so you're basically going to go in and do your stitch, but you're going to pull up so that you're even with the back. Easier to see this way. So you're going to pull up till you're even with the back, and then you're going to do your stitch. That's an extended single crochet. You'll see it written as ESC, extended. So anytime you see that and say anybody else's written pattern, it means extended with an E in front of it. So once you get to where you don't really need to extend your stitches anymore, then you can just go around. So when you come back around, you can just fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail. So, let's put your this. So hard to see. You see it this way better, how it curves like that. That's straight, flat up and down. You see how it curves like that? And it's not like that. So that's the shape of the fin that we need to have. So we can't whip stitch from this point here. You have to make another one of these, so I'm just going to show you the whip stitch and that. So I just used the front loops, and I moved over a couple of stitches, and then I whip stitched. I did the fake whip stitch. I used all the stitch, not just the back loops. So go ahead and make your other one. I'm going to put the pattern on the screen, and I will see you on the other side. Okie dokie. So when you sew your slipper on, excuse me, it has to go away from the head. So this is the head, and it has to go away from the head. So I just whip stitched mine on. But if you know, you can mattress stitch if you want. You can do whatever you want. I just whip stitch mine on, so go ahead and sew both yours on. You can decide where you want them. I'm probably putting the eyes just back behind the jaw. So I've made enough of these, that's why I'm not really guessing where to put them, but you can put them anywhere you want. And I did do both sides. So there are mine, not probably even. Oh, they look almost even. So, let's do the eyes. Here's one of my eyes. So you're gonna need a button. I got a little button here that I'm gonna use. And with your white and your 3.5, we're gonna make a magic ring, and we're gonna put 6 single crochets in there. Amigurumi style, we're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. I'm going to do this 3 times, so I'm not going to use a stitch marker because it's really not that super duper important. So 1 single crochet, increase 3 times. And you're going to know you're back around because of your straggler here. So I'll fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail. Not a very big one, though. So, keep this guy. We got some tight sewing along the way. Find a darning needle or a needle anyway that's going to go through your little openings in your tiny little button. I use glue, so I didn't really pull my circle closed. This doesn't really matter. So I'm going to put a blob of glue on there. And put my little eyeball in the center. You can off-center it if you want, and because you're gluing it, you don't technically have to sew it, but I actually like the little white part in the eye that it leaves, so I put a couple of stitches in, just like that. And this is super duper tight back here, so you don't have to weave very much, but I'm just going to weave once because that gets all gluey too, so you don't really need to weave any more than once. And it's so tight. So that's your eyeball. So go ahead and make your second eye. Mine's already done. And I'll see you back here and we'll get it all sewn on. Okie dokie. Glue all over my fingers now. So figure out where you want this. I'm just gonna do it like there's my jaw. I'm just gonna do it there and there. Now, again, it's such a small space. It's probably gonna look like a baby shark, especially being blue. But kids are gonna love it, right? So I'm not gonna go down and around. I'm actually gonna go into the white. It's really tight. And I'm gonna pop through, and I'm just gonna go in and out like that all the way around because I don't want to stretch the white out. And if I sewed around using a whip stitch, it would look like he's got really big eyeballs. So I kind of wanted to keep the curl, how it kind of curls up around the button. So that's why I chose to do it this way. But you can sew it on however you want to sew it on. So after I've sewed it on, my weaving consisted of going in the front loops all the way around. So I'm kind of adding an extra rim around the eyeball. And that's just kind of how I weaved. But again, you can do whatever you want. I am not a sewer, so taking lessons for me is like an oxymoron. And that is it. That is all I did. So go ahead and sew your eyes on. And I will see you right back here. There we go. There's my... I don't know what happened. He looks googly-eyed. I don't know. I don't sew very well. Anyway, let's get the dorsal fin done. So again, I did the dorsal fin with my 3.5. So you do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is just going to be 6 single crochets. So I'm not going to use a stitch marker because it's a waste of my time for 6 stitches. I'm just going to count. Plus you always know you're back around because of this guy. So I'm going to flip him. I'm going to pull my middle close. I'm going to flip him around, and your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. You're going to do that 3 times. So again, I'm not going to use a marker, I'm just going to go. So 1 single crochet, increase 3 times. And then I just want you to do 9 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So number 1 and 2, and then your increase, because I don't really need to tell you anymore. You're going to do that 3 times. So the next round we're going to do is going to be weird, and that's because I'm increasing and changing stitches as I do it from single to half double, so, and increasing all at the same time. So the increase is actually a 3 single crochet increase, but halfway through that I changed to a half double crochet, so that's what's going to happen. At the end of the day, at the end of this row, you're gonna end up with 15 stitches. Just trying to tuck my middle in so he doesn't annoy me. So first you're gonna do 3 single crochets. So I would use a stitch marker here just because, in case you lose your way. That's 3, counting the marker. And then the next stitch gets 2 single crochets for the increase. Then I'm going to do 2 single crochets, and here's where I switch. I'm going to do a half double, and then I'm going to do 2 half doubles in this space. I'm going to do half doubles all the rest of the way, and then you're going to do a 3 half double increase. Brings you to the end and gives you 15 stitches. The next round is going to be a 4 stitch increase with 2 different stitches, so it's going to be just as weird. So that's number 1. You're going to do 4 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. Now you're going to do 3 single crochets and 1 half double, and then your increase of 2 half doubles in the same space. And then you're just going to finish this round with 4 half double increase. You should have 18 stitches. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase, all in singles. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets and then your increase. So repeat this all the way around. We're not switching to half doubles in this round or anymore. So you should have 21 stitches, and I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 21 stitches, and then you can fasten off. So I'll see you on the other side. So you can fasten off. The sewing tail. We're not whip stitching this closed, we're sewing it on open. So that's your guy. So again, you can see how it slopes back, you can see how it comes in. So he gets sewn on open. So I put him right at the end of the body of the slipper. And again, I just do a whip stitch, but I do keep this spread open. It looks better. That's the reason why I do it. It looks better. But you can make that choice, that decision, how you want to sew it on. That's just suggestions that I make. So, once you've got it sewn on, and hopefully it's in the center, I just grabbed a little piece here to make my knot. So again, wiggle it to make sure you tighten that knot right down. And then I just weaved up into the fin itself. And there we have it. So again, I don't really have a foot to put into this, but I guess I can use this as a small foot. If you wanted to make a tie to go around, I just weaved in and out with it. This was, let me see, 55 chains. 55 chains to go around this small guy. But, you can just, I figure if you do maybe 60 for this little bigger guy, it might not be so bad. So, of course, this foot's a lot smaller than it should be. But it is easier to show you a picture when there's a foot in it. Anyway, here we have it. I'll zoom out a little bit. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.